What up, guys? The Bench Buddies are back with my Week 13 college football power rankings. Let's get into it here. As dropping for my rankings, I got Kansas State and Louisville. Obviously, Louisville suffering a tough loss at the buzzer, a game-winning field goal against Stanford. And the way they lost was interesting. They're on 25, or sorry, with 25 seconds to go, had a first down, looking to get 10 yards and kick a game-winning field goal. Then threw four incompletions to give Stanford the chance to get that opportunity to kick the field goal, and they did. K-State, obviously a tough loss for them against Arizona State, and then the others receiving votes. You have Memphis, Syracuse, and Illinois, all winning their games, but just missing out on my top 25. But 25 through 21 have Arizona State entering. Obviously, their win at K-State gets them in this week, and they get BYU at home, which is a huge game now that BYU lost. That could also have implications on the college football playoff, obviously in the Big 12 as well. Iowa State, they respond well after two straight losses, get a win against Cincinnati to keep them in the race in the Big 12. They get Utah, which is a tough place to play and looking to kind of ruin Iowa State's season at this point. UNLV moves into this rankings for the first time this year. Their loss to Syracuse in OT and Boise State, two decent losses at this point in the season. They're 4-1, needing a Colorado State loss or Boise State loss possibly to get into the Mountain West Championship. Missouri, tough loss on the road at South Carolina. It looked really good for 59 minutes that they were going to go and win this game. And then obviously the last minute of the game, South Carolina drove down the field to get the win. Now, they're probably out of the college football playoff conversation now, but could create some havoc here in the SEC. Washington State, same thing. I thought this team maybe could earn a bye or at least get into a playoff, not get a bye because they're not in the conference. But that loss to New Mexico pretty much sums up their season. They aren't going to be able to do it. They get Oregon State this week, which should be a decent game, but I think Washington State's window has closed. 16 through 20, these are the teams on the outside looking in. A&M, no-brainer win there against a very weak school. Clemson squeaks out a win in Pittsburgh to keep their playoff chances alive. Colorado blows out Utah, who's the best defense in the Big 12. So this Colorado team is rolling, but Kansas is on a little heat streak here, upsetting two teams and going into that place. That's definitely a tough game for the Buffs. And Kansas, has nothing to lose at this point in the season. South Carolina, like I said, great upset win, possibly keep their chances alive in the college football playoff. Need a lot to happen, but they could beat Clemson and really get that last win at the end of the year. That could maybe propel them in. Tulane, 35-0 at Navy on senior day. Solidifies that this Tulane team, I think, is probably going to be the team that gets in if Boise State does not get in. They suffer a loss, but they head into the bye week 9-2, playing against Army in the American Championship. And then speaking of Army, they're at 15. They have a bye and they get Notre Dame this week. And you see those question marks. I don't know their playoff rankings yet because I'm making this on Sunday. So that's why you see question marks there of the teams that are probably going to be ranked. But Army, this is their Super Bowl. Like one of our viewers said, they have to win this game if they want to get in the playoff. If they lose this game, they're probably not going to make the playoff. Even with one loss, it's pretty crazy to think because Notre Dame's really their only good team that they've played on this schedule. And it's going to be a great game. So make sure you guys watch that one next weekend. SMU, a win against Boston College. They just keep finding ways to win games. They go to Virginia, probably should win that one. I think if they win next weekend, they're automatically in the ACC championship. I think that's correct because I know Miami and Clemson each have one loss, but I think tiebreakers put them in. Ole Miss coming out of the bye week, and they get Florida. Florida's been playing some good football, obviously upsetting LSU last weekend. So Ole Miss, tough game for them, but they're like on the outside looking in for the playoff standpoint too, as well as BYU. I don't know what this BYU team is going to do moving forward. At Arizona State, obviously, I'm putting them in the rankings now, so they're going to be ranked. That's a huge game for BYU. If they can win that game, they're probably going to get into the playoff. If they lose that game, then I think Arizona State's probably going to jump up here to 12, maybe even higher, and BYU falls down into the 20s maybe. After what started 9-0 season, it could quickly become 9-2. Alabama blows out Mercer. They get Oklahoma. Should move to 9-2. 6 through 10. I think this is where you can really question a lot of people's rankings on this. I have Georgia obviously above Tennessee because they beat Tennessee, but then Tennessee above Bama. and Tennessee beat Bama, but Georgia lost to Alabama. So I think all three of those teams are interchangeable. But because of recency, I got to put Georgia ahead of Tennessee and 9 and 10. They're both 8 and 2. Tennessee has one more conference game where Georgia is has UMass and then they go. So I don't know. This Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, SEC's beating up on each other. I mean, Ole Miss is right there too. So one of those teams isn't going to make it, in my opinion. And it's going to be interesting to see what the committee does. Miami pretty much has to win out to convince me that they're going to make it to the playoff. If they suffer another loss, 10 and 2 compared to a Georgia's 10 and 2, I think you got to put a Georgia Bulldog team in. Boise State, though, they keep finding ways to win games. Bad first half, but dominant second half performance. And they're moving up to 7 here. I think Boise State needs to get way more credit than they're getting. They're still 9 and 1, and that only loss came to Oregon as the timer hit 0 on the game clock in Eugene. So Boise State hung with them for 60 minutes, just couldn't pull it out at the end. And Boise State, I think, could really be a very good team come playoff time and maybe make a run in the playoff as long as Genty is healthy. Notre Dame moves up too after their win against Virginia. This team has looked very good after their loss to early in the year. Forget who they lost to, but Army, like I said, it's Army Super Bowl, and it's kind of Notre Dame Super Bowl as well. Because if they lose that one behind Army, you're behind Boise State. You're behind those teams that don't get the automatic bye. So that'll be tough sledding for Notre Dame if they lose this game. If they win this one, there's a very good chance that they're going to make the playoff. Obviously, get USC next week, which is a big rivalry game for them. Then 1 through 5, kind of as you expect here, Oregon at 1, even with a very ugly performance in Madison. But hey, you're undefeated, 11-0. A win is a win. Ohio State, Indiana at 2 and 3, and obviously these two teams play each other this week, which is going to be huge, not only for Big Ten championship implications, but for the playoff as well. Because let's say Ohio State wins, well, you're going to look at a rematch of Ohio State, Oregon in the Big Ten championship. If Indiana wins, it's more than likely going to be Indiana, Oregon, probably for the 1 seed in the playoff. And, whoever loses would probably be the 5 seed in the playoff. So definitely huge implications here on this week's game. Texas, not a pretty win in Arkansas, but a win is a win at this point in the season. They're staying at 4, move to 9-1, get Kentucky this week at home. Should blow them out, I would assume. And then Penn State goes into Purdue. Thinks 49 on them, which is good to see from Penn State that they're putting up a lot of points in these kind of games as they get Minnesota this week, which I think isn't as easy of a game as people are going to make that to be. Just because Minnesota plays well at this point at the end of the year. I do expect Penn State to win that game, but it definitely could be a lot closer than people think. And that's going to be it for my Week 13 power rankings. Check back next week to see where your favorite team ranks. But until the next time, the Bench Buddies are out.